We call ourselves Christians, believers. Well, if that be the case, do you have a deep, intimate relationship with the living God, your Creator? Do you walk with Him? Do you hunger and thirst for His Word, wanting to do what He says to do? Or are you like Mordecai and Esther at this point in time in the story? They call themselves Jews, but there's absolutely no indication that they have a relationship with the living God. So today we're going to look at the consequences of a compromised life. So join me as we take a small bite of chapter 2, verses 8 through 11. Grab your Bibles and the Gotcha Bible Guide, and let's let God Chats lead us through these verses. Now we know there is a king on the hunt for a beautiful young virgin to please him, to satisfy him. So he has sent forth a decree, and you will see in verse 8, the decree was heard, and young ladies, including Esther, have been taken to the king's palace. Now I want to stop right here. I want you to catch a glimpse of the scene that is set before us. And let me share that there is a Greek historian, Herodotus, that tells us that men and women were at the disposal of this king, his empire, his egotistical pleasure. For example, he would gather 500 boys every year in order to castrate them and have them serve in his court. And if they weren't castrated, then they were placed in the military. Well, I share this because I want you to understand this is not a nice king. This is not a nice man. This is a bad dude. And for these women to be taken to his palace is not a pretty scene at all. And it certainly is not like a beauty pageant as many have led us to believe. No, this is more like human trafficking of today. This is all about beauty and sex, and every young lady that has been taken will have to spend the night with this king, and he will use these women for his satisfaction. Well, do questions arise in your heart right now as I share this? Where was Mordecai, Esther's dad? Why didn't he do something? Why would he let Esther go? Why didn't he marry her off to a young Jewish man? How could he possibly let his young virgin daughter go, knowing she would have to spend the night with a man who was not her husband? Here was a dad. He said nothing and he did nothing. What would you and I do? And then there's Esther. She's passive. You don't hear her say anything. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't fight. She doesn't resist like Vashti did. So again, we have this beautiful young virgin. She doesn't say anything and she doesn't do anything. What would you and I do? And then why instruct Esther not to let others know they were Jews? Why were they concealing and hiding their faith? Was it for safety or was it to fit in? What do you and I do today? These are things you and I need to consider. And out of millions, Josephus tells us 400 plus women were taken to the king's palace. And out of 400 plus, verse 9 tells us, Esther found favor. Here's God's hand working in the life of this young, passive, disobedient Jewish woman. Join me today as we consider a compromised life, the consequences that can come, and yet see God works behind the scenes in our life.